What if the American dream has become unaffordable for the middle class? This is the question that haunts many Americans today as they grapple with a crisis that is largely unseen but deeply felt: the middle-class rent crisis. It's a battle waged in the hearts and homes of countless individuals and families, a struggle to keep a roof over their heads amid soaring costs and stagnating wages. The American middle class, once the bedrock of our nation's prosperity and a symbol of its promise, is now caught in the crossfire of economic forces beyond their control. This unseen battle is not fought with guns and bombs, but with paychecks and rent checks, with the relentless march of time and the unforgiving arithmetic of survival. In the last 20 years, rental prices have skyrocketed, outpacing wage growth by a staggering margin. In many cases, the cost of rent has doubled or even tripled, while wages have barely budged. This disparity has turned what was once a manageable expense into a daunting financial challenge. The statistics are alarming. Over half of middle-class renters are now spending more than 30% of their income on housing, the threshold at which it becomes a burden. Many are spending far more, sacrificing other necessities and even going into debt to keep a roof over their heads. Yet, this crisis often goes unseen because it's not dramatic. It's not a sudden catastrophe that grabs headlines. It's a slow, grinding pressure, a constant worry at the back of the mind. It's choosing between paying the rent or buying groceries. It's lying awake at night, wondering how you're going to make ends meet. It's an unseen battle, but it's a battle nonetheless. As we delve deeper into this topic, we'll explore the economic forces behind this crisis, its impact on individuals and communities, and the policies that can help or hinder the middle class in their struggle. Let's dive into the unseen battle many Americans face daily: the middle-class rent crisis. To understand this crisis, we sought the insights of economists. Let's delve into the core of the issue. The most striking factor that economists point to is the growing gap between income and rent increases. Over the past few decades, rent prices have been skyrocketing at a much faster pace than income levels. It's like being in a race where your opponent is on a motorbike and you are on foot. The disparity is just too vast to bridge. Then, there's the issue of gentrification. This is a process where wealthier individuals move into a neighborhood, driving up property values and in turn rent prices. It might sound like economic progress, but it's a double-edged sword. For the existing residents, their homes become unaffordable luxury items. Imagine being priced out of your own neighborhood, forced to uproot your life because the cost of living has become too high. Now let's talk about the scarcity of affordable housing. It's like a game of musical chairs, but with housing. When the music stops, there simply aren't enough chairs for everyone. The demand for affordable housing far outstrips the supply, pushing prices even higher and leaving many middle-class families without a home they can afford. One economist we spoke to compared it to being stuck in a snowstorm without a coat. The cold here represents the rising rent prices, the snowfall, the scarcity of affordable housing, and the wind, the gentrification. You're caught in the middle, trying to weather the storm, but without the right protection, a stable, affordable home, it's a losing battle. These factors, when combined, form a vicious cycle. The more rents increase, the more people are priced out of their homes. The more people are priced out, the higher the demand for affordable housing. And the higher the demand, the more prices are driven up. It's a cycle that's hard to break, and it's leaving countless middle-class families in its wake. These economic factors create a perfect storm for a rent crisis. But what does this crisis look like on a personal level? Imagine being a hardworking teacher named Sarah. She's dedicated her life to molding young minds but finds herself struggling to make ends meet. Despite working full-time, she cannot afford the skyrocketing rent for her two-bedroom apartment in the city. She's had to take up a second job, sacrificing precious time with her family just to keep a roof over their heads. Then there's Robert, a retiree who worked for 35 years in construction. He saved diligently for his golden years, but his pension doesn't stretch far enough to cover the exorbitant rent for his modest home. He's had to make the heart-wrenching decision to move out of the neighborhood he's called home for decades, leaving behind friends and a community he cherishes. Consider, too, the story of Mia, a single mother of two, working two jobs just to keep her family afloat. The rent for their apartment has increased by 50% in the past 5 years. Despite her best efforts, she's constantly playing catch-up with bills, and the threat of eviction looms large. These are not isolated incidents. They are the stories of millions of middle-class Americans, individuals and families who, despite their best efforts, are being swept up in this rent crisis. People who work tirelessly yet find themselves just one unexpected expense away from losing their homes. These narratives reflect the harsh reality that the middle class, the backbone of our society, is being squeezed out of their homes. They are being forced to make heart-wrenching decisions, like choosing between paying for food or the roof over their heads. They are having to uproot their lives, leave behind communities they love and cherish, all because of the escalating rent prices. These stories are more than just statistics on a page. They are the lived experiences of our neighbors, our friends, our family members. They are the human faces behind the numbers, the real-life repercussions of an unseen battle that's being waged across the nation. These stories are a stark reminder of the human cost of this crisis. How is policy impacting the rent crisis? We asked policy experts for their insights. The answer is complex, but let's delve into it. One key area where policy plays a role is in the realm of affordable housing. A lack of comprehensive policies to promote affordable housing has led to a dearth of options for middle-class Americans. The absence of these policies means that the housing market is largely determined by the free market, which, while effective in many scenarios, does not always cater to the needs of the middle class. The experts pointed out the influence of zoning laws, which often restrict the types of housing that can be built in certain areas. These laws tend to favor single-family homes over multi-unit buildings, limiting the amount of available housing and driving up prices. This has led to a mismatch between the type of housing that's available and what's actually needed, especially in urban areas where demand for affordable housing is high. Furthermore, the experts highlighted the impact of policies that inadvertently incentivize property speculation. These policies, such as tax breaks for property investors, can lead to an increase in property prices as investors buy up properties in desirable areas, driving up rents and pricing out middle-class tenants. Rent control, a policy that's been implemented in some cities to combat skyrocketing rents, is another area of contention. While it can provide immediate relief for some tenants, experts warn that it can also discourage property owners from maintaining or improving their properties, leading to a decline in the quality of available housing. In many cases, well-intentioned policies can have unintended consequences, contributing to the rent crisis rather than alleviating it. For instance, policies designed to protect tenants can sometimes make landlords more selective about who they rent to, potentially excluding middle-class tenants. Policy plays a pivotal role in the rent crisis, often exacerbating the problem. It's a complex issue with no easy solutions, but understanding the impact of policy is an important step towards addressing the crisis. So, what can be done to address this crisis? The rent crisis, like any complex issue, doesn't have a one-size-fits-all solution. But there are several strategies we can explore to alleviate this problem. Let's start with policy changes. Experts suggest that revising zoning laws could be a significant first step. By allowing for more high-density housing in urban areas, we can increase the supply of affordable homes. Other policy suggestions include implementing rent control measures and providing more subsidies for low-income renters. But policy changes alone won't solve the rent crisis. Community initiatives also play a vital role. For instance, some communities have started cooperative housing programs where residents collectively own and manage their building. This model has proven to be a successful way to keep housing costs down and build stronger communities. On the other hand, promoting financial literacy can empower individuals to make better housing decisions. Providing resources on budgeting, saving and understanding the rental market can help renters navigate this challenging landscape. Nevertheless, these solutions are not without their challenges. Revising zoning laws can face resistance from homeowners who fear that high-density housing will lower property values. Rent control measures can discourage landlords from maintaining their properties, and subsidies often face budget constraints. Cooperative housing requires a high level of commitment from residents, and not everyone has access to financial literacy resources. Despite these potential roadblocks, experts agree that these strategies, if implemented effectively, could make a significant difference. The key is to approach the issue from multiple angles, combining policy changes, community initiatives, and individual actions. And while these solutions may not fully eradicate the rent crisis, they can certainly mitigate its impact. They can provide more affordable housing options, protect renters from exploitation, and empower individuals to make informed decisions about their housing. While the rent crisis is a complex issue, there are steps we can take to address it. And remember, every step taken towards addressing this crisis brings us closer to winning this unseen battle. The journey may be long and challenging, but it's one we must undertake for the sake of America's middle class. You might be wondering, how can I help? Well, there are several ways we can all chip in to make a difference in this ongoing rent crisis. Perhaps the most powerful tool at our disposal is our voice. By advocating for policy changes, we can influence the very rules that govern the housing market. Contact your local representatives, attend city council meetings, and don't shy away from sharing your thoughts and concerns. Remember, change often starts small, with the actions of a few dedicated individuals. Supporting affordable housing initiatives is another way to help. This could mean contributing to nonprofit organizations that build affordable homes, or volunteering your time to help with construction. The efforts of these organizations not only provide affordable housing options but also promote self-reliance and stability for families in need. Education, too, is a pivotal part of the solution. Many people are unaware of the severity of the rent crisis, and it's upon us to spread the word. Talk to your friends, share information on social media, or host a community meeting to discuss the issue. The more people understand the crisis, the more they can help in tackling it. Another way to contribute is by supporting businesses that pay their employees a living wage. Businesses that prioritize their employees' welfare help to ensure that workers can afford housing. When we choose to buy from these businesses, we're voting with our wallets and encouraging a fairer economic system. Lastly, consider becoming a responsible landlord if you have the means. Offering affordable rent and treating tenants with respect can help alleviate the pressure on the middle class. Remember, every action counts. Even if you can only do one of these things, you're still making a difference. We can't solve this crisis overnight, but with consistent effort, we can make significant strides towards a future where everyone has a place to call home. Together, we can make a difference in the middle-class rent crisis. The middle-class rent crisis is a battle many Americans face, often unseen. It's an intricate dance of economics where supply and demand, income disparity, and the cost of living intersect to create a formidable challenge. This crisis isn't just about numbers on a page, it's about people, it's about you, me, our neighbors, our families. The human impact is real and it's significant. Policy plays a crucial role too, shaping the landscape of the crisis. But it's not all doom and gloom, there are potential solutions. From policy reform to community initiatives, we can all play a part in addressing this crisis. Let's remember, this battle may be unseen, but it's not unwinnable. It's a call to action for each of us, a challenge to bring about change. By shedding light on this unseen battle, we can work towards a future where the American dream is affordable for all.